So this past weekend, I climbed up a big mountain and I'm all fired up about it because it's really my first big mountain of this summer 2023 season. For those of you who haven't been around for too long and may know me more as a yoga teacher or really just in this YouTube sort of format, we're heading into the summer here. We're heading into mountain season, which is really, really my heart and soul. It's this space that that if I could choose to be anywhere, it would be climbing up a mountain, whether that's here in my own backyard, whether that's up in Colorado, or really anywhere. So this first mountain of the season, it's one that I hadn't gotten to climb before. One very nearby. It's very close to my heart because it's one I've known my whole life, but haven't been able to head up before. I finally got the opportunity, and like I said, just being the first big mountain of the season, climbing up 3,000 plus feet. So the fun thing about this particular trail is that there wasn't a trail, which meant I got to route find and bushwhack, which makes it for quite the adventure. You know, you get this added element to it that's really trying to piece out the journey, right? Fill in the puzzle. And when you mess up, you get to turn around, go back downhill, and it just adds in so much extra work, effort, a lot of cases, pain. It was a day filled with a lot of pain, bushwhacking through a lot of thorny bushes, heading up a lot of scree fields where loose rock really it was a day of a lot of loose rock falling on my feet, on my crushing my leg in one instance, and just to you see me laughing because it's funny. It's the kind of thing that really gets to the heart of the metaphor, but also true experience that is climbing a mountain. And it's this thing that really founded upward slopes. It really lies at the heart of everything I do. You know, this platform, whether it's through my writings or these YouTube videos or my teachings, my practices, you know, this dance between can we find the things in life that light us up, that give us purpose, you know, that present a goal, some ideal that's like, yes, I want to go for that. And at the same time, presents a real challenge, right? Because as much as I talk about this theme that's bringing more gentleness, letting go, you know, these softer aspects that I talk a lot about here, the reason I talk about them is because there's this need to balance out this piece, this hard work piece. And that's this aspect that, you know, gets to come together when you're out in these spaces, going after the things you want to go after in life. Finding those moments of beauty, of gentleness, of allowing, and also the times of hard work, of persevering, of having a rock crushing my leg and screaming out, and then continuing forward. And the mountain, right? The mountain is where it all gets to come together in such delightful ways. For me, I know climbing literal mountains isn't everyone's thing, which I'm grateful for because there's too many humans and too few mountains in this world. If climbing mountains was lit up everybody on this planet, then we'd have a problem. But fortunately for us, what we get to do is all learn to listen within, right? Learn to check in with our own selves and to check in with what lights each of us. Oh, let me say that again. What lights each of us up? What calls to each of us? And to do it regularly, because more than one something is going to call to us. And what calls to us is going to change over time. And I think I'm going to tell a story about that very here soon that has to do with mountains, because it seems to be that's what our theme is today. I've been holding off on the mountain theme as I've been creating this YouTube channel, which has been a struggle for me because usually that's all I want to talk about. But, I really started this channel coming out of this phase that was a state of deep rest. That state of deep rest really came from getting burnout, pushing myself to a limit, right? One of those limits was running 100 miles last summer and doing so in this beautiful way that brings in all these different pieces I'm talking about, but in a way that did indeed really burn me out and brought me to a space of deep rest, deep questioning. So launching this channel in the spring, starting to emerge, this time of emerging gently, really playing in with this gentle theme that I've been speaking with a lot. And if you haven't watched some of those videos, I recommend you go check out some of the earlier videos. It was really this theme that I felt very strongly to start talking about first and foremost. Being gentler on ourselves, creating more space, as opposed to just charging forward. And I did that very intentionally because, it's this norm in our world to keep charging forward. So just like I was doing yesterday, charging up this mountain because I had set my sights on a goal, the top, and I made the decision to go after it with all that I had. The problem is, in this world of ours, we've put this idea that is always pushing, always charging forward, right? We've put that idea in itself up on a pedestal, and we worship that now. We worship hard work. We worship sacrifice, right? We worship putting whatever it is, whatever work, whatever project is before ourselves. And we live that way all the time. And it doesn't work. It burns us out. It makes us sick. It also leads to us not being able to take action in a way that's really aligned with what best serves this world and, of course, ourselves. So gentleness, right? This theme, again, I encourage you to keep cultivating your life, whether you need to go back and watch some of those YouTube videos, whether you need to subscribe to my yoga practice, right? My yoga practice is a space where I guide us to be gentler with ourselves, with our bodies, with our movements. As we move, as we do some work, really play in that space that's, okay, now's the time to be gentle. Knowing that there are going to be times in life where things shift, and now is the time to focus and push and work hard and dig deep to go to those places where we can call upon all the resources we have to make something happen. And getting to live in this dance, right? Getting to live in the flow of it. Getting to do it all, not ever saying that one is better. Being able to live in all of it, and always tuning into your own self to check in with what really best serves today. Today, if you could see my legs, I am totally cut up. Anything I do that involves anything touching my skin, it hurts. It hurts. My muscles are tired. I'm tired. So today is a day for me to be very gentle with myself, to really nourish myself, to rest, to give myself the care I need, to really create more space to ask, like, what do I need today? So that when that next mountain appears, I'm ready to dive in. So a moment here, to check in with yourself. You can pause the video, spend as much time as you want doing this. I invite you to ground in. You feel yourself, your feet on your floor, your seat in the chair, whatever helps you to really ground into this present moment. Dropping out of your head, out of this conversation that we're having. And again, I invite you to pause the video if you want some silence to do this. Really dropping into your body and asking, what's needed right now? What best serves right now? Is there something that's firing you up? Is there a goal, a problem to be solved, some sense of accomplish that you're ready to go after? Is it rest? Is it being really gentle with yourself? Do you really need some deep nourishment? Is there anything else that's alive? It's again an invitation to spend some time simply being with yourself, asking your own self. Continuing on with this mountain theme today, I told you I wanted to share a story from the end of last season. I tend to spend a good chunk of the summer these days really just living in the mountains, particularly in Colorado, getting as much time as I can on the trails, summiting as many peaks as possible. So I was in a rhythm of this last season. I had been training for that 100-miler. I was in the game. I was pushing and pushing and pushing. And I ran the 100-miler and it was amazing. And afterwards, I was just destroyed physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It was as if it had taken every little bit of me to get across that finish line. Afterwards, I gave myself a little bit of time to recover. And then instead of checking in with, okay, what do I really need now? What really best serves now? Instead of doing that, I went with my usual behavior. I went with what had become my sort of automatic pattern at this point, which was I have to get back to the mountains. I have to keep summiting as many peaks as possible. Given my history, I know that that brings joy and fulfillment and purpose, and I need to get back out there and do it. Now, as I was doing it, I realized there were some signs pointing me in different directions. Like, for one, I had started to develop a slight cough, wasn't feeling very well. I pushed that aside. My legs were still quite depleted from the 100-miler, but I pushed that aside and I said, oh, I know how to push through things and summit a mountain. So I'm going to get back out there and go for it. So I did that. And I end up showing up in Colorado and doing this triple header. It was this big goal of mine, these 3 peaks that are all around 13,000 feet. They're all pretty close to each other. So I wanted to do them all in a day. So I show up and I do it all. And it's great because climbing a mountain, summiting a mountain is great. But all the while, I just wasn't really feeling it. So I start heading down the mountains, and this little cough that I had pushed aside just starts speaking up, and I'm choking, heading down off this mountain and just really realizing that something's not right. I get down the mountain, head to camp. Cough is getting worse. And as I usually do, in the evening when the weather's nice, I start to hike up yet another mountain. Can you tell there's a little bit of what could be an unhealthy pattern in certain contexts? So I start walking up this mountain, and I mean walking, taking it real slow because that's my evening practice. Slow walk. So I'm walking up this mountain and choking. For whatever reason, I keep taking steps up. I keep heading up this mountain. And you know how this goes, right? Again, whether it's a literal mountain or whatever it is that you tell yourself in life is so damn important. I have to finish this thing, right? I have to finish this assignment. I have to finish this report. I have to finish the dishes. I have to do whatever it is that we tell ourselves is the most important thing, even when all the signs are telling us to stop. So I keep walking, I keep taking steps. Finally, I kind of come to the opening where I can see the mountain. And my goal had been to get up to the ridge line. I get to a point where I can see the mountain and the ridge line. And it becomes very clear to me that I'm not going to make it to my destination. So I take a seat on the rock, and I'm just choking. And I'm looking up the mountain, I'm sitting, finally, just creating some space where I can finally listen. And in that moment, the message comes through as clear as can be. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Followed by, this is not your mountain to climb. So I carried that message with me for a while, kind of really contemplating, like, this is not my mountain to climb. I realized what had happened is the same thing that keeps playing out in my life and is, chances are, plays out in your life. This thing, this pattern we get in where again we find ourselves just pushing forward towards an outcome just because we're used to doing that. We're told that that's what's important, right? We have whatever story, whatever construct we've made up in our head that's like, oh, it's so important to get there. And along the way, we forget to question, why? What's the real need? What's the real desire moving me towards that goal? And when we aren't in this practice of checking in, right? Is there a real truth behind what's moving me towards that goal? Is there a real reason to work so hard to achieve that outcome? And when we're not in the habit, in the routine of checking in with ourselves, we end up just getting swept away. We get swept away with our own conditioning. We get caught up in the stories of other people, right? We get other people's beliefs put on us, telling us, oh, this thing is so important, you should be pushing towards it, without actually checking in with ourselves. So I spent a lot of time with this idea of not my mountain to climb, and really held it for many, many months, bringing it into this space that, I was talking about earlier in this video, this space of deep rest, of deep questioning, what now is my mountain to climb? What goals, what outcomes are worth charging uphill for? And of course, there's no simple answer. If you were waiting for what's the big simple answer? There's several, right? And I'm very happy to continue to bring you the ones that really speak up. Launching We Are the Forest, my membership space for us to hang out in practice together, to dive deeper into concepts such as this one, these many different ones I'm talking about today, and really do so with focused practice to really, really be in the space of transformation. I mentioned this book that I'm spending a lot of time on these days. My newest one, my Substack, which is in connection to the book I'm writing. This new space for the written word where I can put out content, semi-weekly. All these different places that get to appear as these projects with goals and desires and outcomes and all the things that light me up in a way that, is fulfilling and brings purpose. And more recently, also getting back to climbing real mountains again after many, many months off, spending a winter taking a step back from trail running, hiking for the most part. Now I get to be back in that space, because that's often how things happen, right? We find something that lights us up in life, whether it's trail running or writing or whatever it is for you. And then the time is right to put everything into it and work hard and work hard and work hard and do that day after day. And then the time comes to rest, to be far more gentle with ourselves. And then that fire starts to get lit again and it starts to burn a little hotter and hotter. And then before you know it, it's time again to start charging forward. This has been a fun one. A little bit rambly where we get to mix all these different themes together. This is my favorite thing to do because, as much as we can really focus on one clear and simple theme, to me, it's always more fun when we get to start to weave them together, like we did in today's video. With that, I'm going to bring us to a close today. I've mentioned many different spaces that you can dive in a little bit deeper with me. Here's really my space where I get to sit down in front of the camera and speak to you. If you want to join me in more deeper embodiment practices, those spaces exist. If you want to follow my writing, join me in those spaces for the written word. That space now once again exists. All the links will of course be in the comments. And with that, thank you for joining me today, and I will catch you in whatever the next space is that we find ourselves in.